civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. Your campaign of terror, murder, mayhem will not be tolerated any longer. The United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it.
So that was the president's big speech this week on Wednesday. Many said it was forceful. Others called it de-escalatory in terms of Iran. And it was widely hailed by a lot of Republican lawmakers, including Senator Lindsey Graham.
This is on par with tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev. This is resetting the relationship between the world and Iran, just not the United States. The president said there's an evil empire in Iran that's bent on destroying the world, killing the people in Israel and coming after us, and I will no longer tolerate it. So this is on par with Reagan's tear down this wall speech.
Some of the folks at Morning Joe did not appreciate that comparison, and they came back at Senator Graham like this. Watch.
Lindsay, it's just not worth it, Lindsay. It's just not worth it. Whatever you're getting, it's just not worth it.
What's he got on you?
Including the Republican nomination in South Carolina. Not worth shaming yourself.
Also with us.
Lindsey Graham said the president's speech was better than Reagan's tear down this wall speech. So that's where Lindsey Graham was yesterday in defending the president.
One of the great speeches in the second half of the 20th century, one of the most significant, Ronald Reagan telling Mr. Gorbachev to tear down the wall. I mean, does Lindsey really need primary votes that badly?
So here now to analyze, Fox News contributor Lisa Boothe, who will be filling in on as co-host on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning. She's got an early morning. And Robert Zimmerman, a Democratic strategist and Democratic National Committee member. Lisa, let me start with you. What's your reaction?
Well, look, I think it's important to remember the context, too, that he doesn't really have the best relationship with the Morning Joe host, right? They don't really like the president. But look, President Trump, and we'll see how history grades the speech as well. But look, President Trump subscribes to the same doctrine of peace through strength that Ronald Reagan did. And what's interesting is there was that David Brooks opinion piece in the New York Times talking about the fact that President Trump's actually used military force less than any other president than Jimmy Carter. But that being said, he's not afraid to, flex that military muscle and send a message. And we've seen it even when he first took office. It was April 2017. Remember, he sent those 59 Tomahawk missiles to Syria after Assad crossed his red line with chemical weapons. And then he also dropped the mother of all bombs on ISIS in Afghanistan to send a message. And then he just took out Soleimani in Iran. So, he's clearly sent a message that he's not messing around, and he did it very early on throughout his presidency. And I think that the world is listening, and they've got the message.
Robert, what do you think?
I think Joe Scarborough was cutting Lindsey Graham some slack and giving him a break here, because the reality is Lindsey Graham just a couple of years ago was describing Donald Trump as a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot, said he was the ISIL or the Islamic State Man of the Year, said he was an embarrassment to the people of South Carolina, and no one eviscerated Donald Trump more than Lindsey Graham. So why he would all of a sudden switch in this sycophantic way?
I mean, he's addressed that criticism a lot. I mean, you could look back at Ted Cruz as well, who now says, people,
right. And
people grow on people over time, and obviously the president has not grown on the folks at Morning Joe, clearly. But what I find interesting is just that there's this sort of guttural reaction, like just even the suggestion that you could compare the two presidents. And I'm not saying, what I'm saying is you have to look at policy, right? So the comparison, and we actually did a similar segment the other night on this show. It wasn't comparing it to the tear down this wall speech. It was just saying, is there a comparison in terms of the way their strategy works?
Absolutely
that the president is America first, strong defense, bulk up the military. That was also Ronald Reagan. Right. And red lines. If you cross the red line, there will be consequences. I think that's what he's doing.
Tell that to the Kurds, who the President Trump deserted and turned over northern Syria to Iran and to Russia, on top of which President Trump was responsible for thousands of ISIS.
So you're upset about the potential. Let me ask you. You're upset about the potential humanitarian side of that.
No,
but
I'm not.
I'm upset about the potential humanitarian side.
It's not about humanitarianism. Yes, I'm concerned about humanitarianism, but I'm concerned about Donald Trump being responsible for releasing thousands of ISIS prisoners, hundreds of ISIS soldiers.
He destroyed ISIS, as a result, because he loosened the engagement that President Obama did not.
Even our generals.
Here's why. But you've had an opportunity to talk. Here's also why you see Senator Graham and Republicans coming over to Donald Trump's side, because when he first took office or when he was running, they didn't really think he was going to be on the team. They didn't think he was going to follow through through with things like conservative judges. They didn't think they were going to see this sort of military policy from him where he does exercise strength. He does flex that muscle. He's not messing
Quite to the
around.
contrary.
I'm not finished.
I'm
not finished. And then also Senator Graham. So now Senator Graham and other, you have had a long time to talk.
No, you have to, Lisa, so I'm going to ask
Senator Lindsey Graham and other Republicans are coming around because I followed through on the promises.
Got it. Let's get Robert
Democrats are going to have a really hard time in 2020.
We love you both. Go ahead.
You said he destroyed ISIS. Our own generals in the field announced they had to dial back their strategy of going after ISIS to deal with the Iran aggression after the Soleimani killing.
Is ISIS a major issue at this moment?
ISIS is, of course, a profoundly major issue. It's one of the leading terrorist
organizations. Not.
That's not the case. No one said he wasn't.
I asked you a question. Is Soleimani, did he present a threat to American citizens?
Yes, of course he represented a threat. But the question is, by killing him, and he was a terrorist and he was a mass murderer, no question. By killing him, did he make America safer? Did he make the world?
I think the answer to that question remains to be seen.
Quite to the contrary.
And the fact you won't even address the topic at hand and you've gone in that direction demonstrates what a good spot.
But I just want to say that, you know what? It's not how you sound, whether or not you're eloquent in your speech or whether or not you're effective in your speech.
About
the
your
bottom
character.
line. No, it's even bigger than that. It's about your accomplishments in the end, and that's what people look back at. So the history will judge all of what we're talking about right now, and whether or not that comparison is an apt one, we'll see. But making the comparison is certainly not something.
All I can tell you is, Martha, I've seen people in cults look more authentic than Lindsey Graham did in his comments.
We'll have fun in 2020. We'll just say that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Robert. Coming up next, a feminist flash mob erupts outside the